The Oxford Online Dictionary defines a hobby as an activity done regularly in one's leisure time for pleasure. While a 2023 Gallup poll says that 61% of all Americans identify hobbies as being an important part of their lives, there is a difference between the hobbies of neurotypicals, by which I mean non-autistic people, and people on the autistic spectrum. Known as special interests, at least 75% of all people with ASD have one or more hobbies. What differentiates these interests from those of neurotypicals is that autistic special interests are often more encompassing and in-depth than those of the average person. For example, as a 6-year-old child, I used to play with toy soldiers. While other children played with these soldiers and shouted sounds like bang bang, I organized my soldiers into fire teams, squads, and platoons. I built elaborate dioramas with trenches and foxholes that had interlocking fields of fire. I used firecrackers to create controlled explosions. This lasted until my mother caught me and took away the matches I had pilfered from my father's study, along with the firecrackers I had gotten by trading marbles and baseball cards with a 4th grader. 54 years passed, and I never forgot my love of toy soldiers. As an adult, I hand-painted military miniatures to use in elaborate war games. I also discovered the world of online gaming. During the COVID pandemic and lockdown of 2020, I became acquainted with the work of Mark Hogenkamp. Mr. Hogenkamp is a Navy veteran. After leaving the service, he became a showroom decorator for a lighting company. In April of 2000, he was attacked by 5 men and was beaten so viciously that he lost 15 years of memory. As part of his therapy, he began working with 1/6 scale World War II action figures which he posed in natural settings to photograph. In time, he built an entire model of a Belgian village. He then used this village to tell the story of how it came to be occupied by the Germans, what life was like for the villagers under German control, and how the village came to be liberated by resistance fighters and Allied troops. Since I had a lot of time on my hands during the COVID lockdown, I wondered if I might do something similar to the work of Mark Hogenkamp. Although I built a Panzer Mark II at 1/6 scale, instead of constructing a village in my backyard, I began working to see if I could use 1/6 scale action figures and various sized toy soldiers and zombies in digital settings. Over the next 3 years, I created an alternate world in which the Third Reich had avoided defeat in 1945 through the release of a zombie virus. In this dystopian world, as the Allied forces retreated, they took the zombie virus with them. Civilizations fell before the onslaught of the zombie apocalypse. In my imagination, a mild-mannered woman named Barbara Muller inherited a Victorian bed and breakfast. While Barbara was prepping the inn for its grand reopening, a politician looking for somewhere out of the way to lay low for a few weeks came across the bed and breakfast. Accompanied by Hank, his Secret Service agent, the two approached the new innkeeper about booking a room for a 2-week stay. In the process of finding an appropriate room, the trio opened a portal between worlds. Having made the mistake of entering this other reality, the three were surprised when the portal leading back to the bed and breakfast abruptly disappeared. Will our intrepid adventurers ever find their way back home? Will they survive the zombie apocalypse? Over time, I realized that I had enough graphic images to create several graphic novels. I have since published these graphic novels as e-books under the series title
Barbara, the Savior of Worlds.
These graphic novels are now available for purchase on Amazon as a 4-book series. The pursuit of a special interest can be very comforting to people on the autistic spectrum. They help with reducing stress. They are often a source of great pride as well as pleasure. They can boost confidence and self-esteem. They can also be a source of learning. Ron Suskind, a Pulitzer-winning Wall Street journalist, has written a book called Life Animated, in which he tells about how he and his wife used his autistic son's interest in Disney movies to make a connection with their child and to teach him how to speak. When we are engaged in our special interests, we are productive and are meaningfully engaged. The interests we develop could in time lead to other related interests. For example, I learned how to make soap and candles that look and smell like real food because of my prevailing interest in all things culinary. Some people have even used their special interests to launch careers. I myself built a 15-year-long culinary arts teaching career upon a special interest in all things culinary. Temple Grandin, who spent her summers with relatives who were cattle ranchers, applied her interests in animal husbandry to revolutionizing the way that slaughterhouses processed cattle. Stephen Wiltshire, who has the ability to paint vast cityscapes after having flown over a city in a helicopter, has long since become a world-famous artist. John Elder Robison developed his love of rebuilding old cars into a business that specializes in restoring high-end luxury cars. If you are the parent of an autistic child and if your child has a special interest, please don't take away that child's interest, even if you think that it might not be age-appropriate. According to a 2023 article in Psychology Today called "Depathologizing the Intense Special Interests of Autism," the loss of a special interest can create a sense of rejection, shaming, and anxiety. A lifetime that is spent avoiding what gives one joy or pleasure can be an empty life. Hiding our talents limits our opportunities. Hiding who we are also makes it harder to connect with others. This includes finding and connecting with others who are like us.